Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon. We are recording this on August 11th of 2014. I'll tell you what, it was a scorcher here today, Ramon. I think this is our first 100-degree day.
Really?
In Western Washington, yeah. It was a scorcher, but we really never had clear skies all day long. And right now, this evening, we've got that silver haze growing. So, well, we know what that's all about. They're I don't know, filtering us or something. But yeah, it was a warm one today. I don't know. And now we got thunderstorms in the forecast. So should be interesting week. The rest of the week, hot, and then it'll give me flashbacks of living in Arkansas, hot and muggy. So how you doing over there in Japan, Ramon?
Pretty good. Lots of wind and stuff like that. Let's see. We have there's this one news that before I get to that other one that we were talking behind the scenes. It always fascinates me how these young kids are coming up with these amazing ideas. And these kids are from all over the world. A 15-year-old invents a device that generates electricity while you walk. So it's like this thing that attaches to your sneaker, and then you can plug into your phone.
Recharge your phone while you're walking.
Yeah. 15-year-old Angelo Casimiro from the Philippines recently made international news with a new invention that generates electricity in a very new and interesting way. I have that posted on the Facebook page, so you guys can go there and take a look at it. It's just absolutely amazing how many of these young kids, maybe because of Facebook and the internet, that I'm getting exposed to more of this compared to when I was 15, not doing nice things. Anyway, but going back to what we were discussing behind the scenes, the audience is probably wondering, what is he talking about this time? So it's funny, a friend of mine who we went to elementary school together posted this on my page, and since I'm that weird guy, everybody posts the weird stuff for me. It's an 8/11/2014 leaked alien structure excuse me, on raw comment images from Rosetta Craft. And this shows the video, which we're going to talk about this with our guests because they're experts in this field. So it was perfect timing that he sent it to me. Quinky dinky, you think, Tom?
Yeah, quinky dink.
Yeah, I don't believe in coincidence.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll get deeper into that. I just want to briefly mention it to you guys. And Tom, let's bring them in.
Yeah, we've got a special treat for you guys tonight. We had these ladies on our Truth Frequency show here a month ago, and man, we just had to get them over here for you guys to hear their story. Also, we've got Kathleen Marden and Denise Stoner with us tonight. Kathleen is a well-known UFO abduction researcher, author, and lecturer with 23 years' experience in the field. She's MUFON's International Director of Abduction Research. For 10 years, Kathy volunteered as MUFON's Director of Field Investigator Training. In 2012, she was a recipient of MUFON's Researcher of the Year Award. She earned a BA degree in social work from the University of New Hampshire in 1971 and participated in graduate studies in education while working as a teacher and education services coordinator. She has extensive formal training in hypnosis. Her interest in UFOs dates back to September 20th of 1961 when her aunt, Betty Hill, phoned her nearby home to report that she and Barney had encountered a flying saucer in New Hampshire's White Mountains. A primary witness to the evidence of the UFO encounter and the aftermath, Kathleen has intimate knowledge of the Hills' biographical histories, personalities, and the previously unpublished historical files pertaining to their sensational story. And we have Denise Stoner with us. Denise Stoner is the director of the Florida Research Group affiliation for UFO Corps. UFO Corps. That must be spelled wrong. It's spelled wrong on my page here. MUFON National Abduction Research Team member, Florida MUFON Team Investigator, STAR team member, former Florida MUFON State Section Director, and Chief Investigator. She also holds educational forums for public and private gatherings for abduction experiencers. Her involvement in the UFO field spans more than 20 years. Denise has an educational background in business and psychology and is a certified hypnotist specializing in regressive hypnosis. She's taught classes in stress reduction for 12 plus years for professionals in such fields as medicine and law. She began her research in hypnosis under Dr. Rob Romack from Denver, Colorado, and they worked together for 5 years on pain control, smoking cessation, and past life regression research. Denise also worked as a paranormal investigator in the homes of abductees that felt they had been visited by spirits following abductions. She recorded evidence of the development of psychic abilities in individuals following their experiences with UFOs and ETs, and worked on a team with Dr. Romack studying abductees' abilities to locate missing people and predict future events. The two of these ladies wrote a book together called The Alien Abduction Files. And man, I'll tell you what, guys, if you want to really understand and dig deep into this subject of alien abductions, this would be a wonderful starting place for you. We have two websites here to share with you. We have Kathleen-Marden.com and we have DeniseMStoner.com. And I want to welcome both of you back to the 100th Monkey Radio.
Thank you. It's great to be with you again.
Oh, wow. So before we started the show, guys, we shared this video that Ramon briefly mentioned there in the intro about this comet 67P. These are raw Rosetta images that were shared with somebody from the ESA, the European Space Agency, that really show, well, first, one thing it really shows is the airbrush work that all these space agencies do for the stuff that they're releasing to the public.
They don't do that, Tom, do they?
Yeah. Well, you know, I've found through my own personal research, Ramon, and actually through the help of others who have really dug into the NASA archives, is that right within the NASA archives, they found two of the exact same images, one of them that had been undoctored and one of them that had been all airbrushed out. I guess the undoctored photographs would be like an oversight on their part. Oops, we let that one get through. And also, you know, I've seen lots of research work by others that they have found the same images from, what was it? Not the Cassini. There's another one that did a big survey of the moon. Gosh, the name's falling out of my mind.
I can't remember. Is that the one that Richard Hoagland was doing?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I can't remember the name.
But they did it's a complete moon scan that there was like over a couple of million images in total that this whole scan took. I've seen comparisons between one agency and another using the exact same photographs and posting the NASA releases are showing airbrush stuff where this other agency, and I for the life of me, and I wasn't prepared to even talk about this tonight, but the other agency had the undoctored photographs. So it's a very obvious airbrush work on the part of NASA. But this video we shared with you too, yeah, God, you know, I look at this stuff and it just makes me shake my head at the cover-ups or surrounding not just the UFO topic, but everything that's associated with it, the abduction stuff, everything that has anything to do with life outside of this planet. It just seems like the official agencies out there will do anything that they can to cover it up.
It certainly seems that way. And not only that, if you're employed by a company that depends upon federal funding for your income, you'd better not talk publicly about UFOs either, or your job could be in jeopardy.
Right.
It's pretty extensive.
Yeah, and that's why so much of this stuff, there's a big question mark, and a lot of skepticism that people get when they see these anonymous releases. And I just don't. I think that most people that skepticism that they have, it's on one hand it's healthy skepticism, yes, but on the other hand, there's got to be a little bit of understanding where these people are coming from. Just because of the point you just brought up, if they're working for one of these agencies and they're found out that they're actually telling the truth to the public when they've been dictated to them not to, they definitely risk their jobs or their funding or whatever happens to be tied to it. So,
Tom, it goes so deep down that I remember in the 8th grade, my homeroom teacher and this other teacher that didn't teach us, but they just came into the class, and I don't know what sparked that, and they just said to us, like, things are not what it seems, there's more to life out there. And then they started pointing up, and then they left it at that. But they were, the way they acted was so paranoid, and they didn't want us to mention that they mentioned, the whole thing about UFOs. And these are just like, regular school teachers that they can't even mention it in school.
And I believe there was a time when there was more academic freedom. But Ed Condon, after the Condon UFO study in Boulder, Colorado, University of Colorado, he was instrumental in seeing that it was not okay to discuss this in the public schools. He and Carl Sagan also worked very hard to allegedly, in order to keep science education strong, wanted to totally eliminate anything paranormal or anything that was beyond the realm of understanding using our current scientific paradigms.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, that's so understandable. And, you think back, if you start to look at things, you may find some very, very quiet subtleties that showed you something might have gone on, something might have been said to you or shown to you, and you didn't pick it up at the time. Had you might have questioned it more. It's very strange. For instance, where I worked in a government facility, you were given a key card to the outside doors and to all the doors on the interior, but you were also given a briefing telling you which doors you may use and which ones you may not. Then why were you given a card that would allow you entrance to all the doors? Yeah. It confused you, and maybe it was meant to. Very odd.
Yeah. We got the way the structure is set up here, and some people look at this whole thing and go, "Wow, that conspiracy's too big for them to, or the secret's too big for them to hold for so many years." Mm-hmm. And I can understand that point of view because this is a big topic, a huge topic. I mean, the implications and the effect it would have on society if this were to be known, if our government or the officials from wherever you want to call that, whether it's NASA or whatever, were to come out and actually say, okay, guys, it's real. We have visitors. We have life out there. We've seen it. We have pictures of them flying around in the sky. We have pictures of them on the moon. We know they're there. There is no doubt in our minds, and hence there should be no doubt in your mind. I wonder what kind of implications, what kind of an effect that would have on our planet. What do you two ladies think? What would that do for society, and what would that do for our future?
Kathy?
Well, I have to say, go ahead, Denise.
Oh, no, I said you go first.
Okay. Well, I think that it would be disruptive to society unless the governments would come together and say, look, we have a treaty with this group or these groups who are coming to visit our planet. You will not be harmed. And to lay out whether or not there is going to be direct contact, if we're going to see these people, if abductions are going to continue. There are a lot of unanswered questions that would have to be answered before the world governments could ever come forward and tell the populace that we are being visited. Right. And we just don't have those answers now. We don't know if the ETs would be willing to give up their generational studies on family lines, for example. You're asking a group of scientists to end their research if you want them to stop taking humans. And at the very least, you could ask them to start asking the people if they would be willing to be taken, if they're willing to be part of this scientific study, and follow the same types of protocols and informed consent that we have here. But I have an inkling that these ETs consider themselves to be far superior to us in the way that humans are treated. And would we establish normalized relationships with a group of gorillas and ask them to agree to be studied by us and give them informed consent forms? They may be looking at us the same way that we look at primates.
Yeah.
I have to agree in a lot of ways because I have been taken as so many times. I've looked at the faces of these entities and they look at us with curiosity and they watch our emotions. They observe very carefully. And then when we're here, when we're in our homes, and very recently I have to say that we're still involved with this Men in Black thing. I allowed someone in my home, and I would never do that, only weeks ago, because I opened the door thinking that I was going to be inspected by a fireman who was going to come and check our smoke alarms, which they do in our neighborhood, but I knew also that these firemen had left our neighborhood. And someone entered my home, and then when he pointed at the ceiling and said, "What are those?" he didn't know what a smoke alarm was.
Wow.
You've still got these things going on where you're being bugged, you're being watched, you're being followed, and our government, I think, is allowing this to happen to us so that we don't speak up, we don't mention what's going on, and they're allowing us to be taken. They're doing nothing to protect us, whether they can or can't. So now are they going to be able to turn around and reverse this and say, we knew this all along, we signed a treaty, and it's going to continue, but now you're going to know who these people are. It's just a bad setup all the way around.
Yeah, they have an awful lot to answer for if it were to come out. And frankly, just like you both said there, it would be very difficult for them to come clean at this stage with as much as they have allowed to happen on this planet. Whether these treaties were signed or not, or agreed to or not, around the whole abduction thing, there's a lot of evidence that there was, yes, but there's no definitive proof, at least none that I'm aware of, that this actually happened. But despite all that, let's say this comes out, actually, how could they come out with and save any sort of face at all without starting an absolute uproar with the population? I don't see any way that they could possibly come out and say they're here. We've known it for a long time. We do have these treaties, and we did allow them to take millions and millions and millions of people off this planet.
Actually, I can see a way, Tom, and the way is because right now we're focusing on one or two or maybe even three groups, which tend to be the tall grays, the short grays, and probably even the praying mantis and the reptilians.
Insectoid, yeah.
Yeah, but then you have other types, the feline type, the human type, the tall whites, that they can easily come out and deny the whole gray that doesn't exist, and then just say, oh, here's the human type. And I think most humans will feel comfortable because they look like us. Yeah. So it's not that, it's just like the guy from France kind of thing. You don't make a big deal out of it. So,
well, the thing is that the substantial evidence is for visitation by the grays. That's where we have physical and circumstantial evidence. We have the missing time. We have witnesses around the grays. We don't have that level of evidence around the other types.
Right.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that if the government was to come out, they can easily just go with the human type and deny the whole gray thing, because they've been denying it already. So,
well, they're denying
keep going
it,
the lie. Yeah.
I can't imagine that they could say, well, yes, the human types are here. We don't have any evidence for it. We have all of this evidence for the grays, but no, the grays don't really exist.
Yeah, well, and the grays, we didn't agree with anything with the grays. If they've been taking people, they've been doing it on their own, and we didn't know anything about it. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they didn't. I mean, you're correct, Tom, that there is no substantial evidence that a treaty was ever signed. There's circumstantial evidence,
right,
but there's no substantial confirmatory evidence that that's true.
Yeah. And that may be buried so deeply just for this purpose, because I think they know, it's inevitable. It is absolutely inevitable that this comes out in a open manner eventually. I mean, it's building so fast. The evidence, the amount of people, the number of people on this planet who know that there's something more going on than what the officialdom has been releasing. The evidence is mounting, and the people are growing, and it is just a matter of time before it has to be addressed in a very open manner.
It's a difficult thing to do, because the cases that we take have to be sorted through, and some of these individuals still today are so very, very, not just upset, it's beyond that. It's emotionally
traumatized.
It's worse than that even. I've just had someone completely disappear. I had asked the police to please go and do a health check, and the individual is gone. The home is empty. The cars are gone. I've tried to contact a family member at this point, and the person had gone down from 120 to 89 pounds.
Wow.
That much trauma. Yes.
Wow.
Wow.
For the majority of the UFO field, it sounds, and at least the impression that I'm getting from the greater field, is that the abduction phenomena has tapered off in the last 15, 20 years. Have you guys noted that at all, or do you think it's still just as rampant and widespread as it always has been?
Well, it's very different than it used to be. 20, 30 years ago, longer, we used to hear a lot about people being taken from an external environment, perhaps for the first time, and that part of it seems to have pretty much ended. What has gone on now is that the individuals that they took long ago from that external environment have been continued to have visitations throughout their lives, and their children were then taken, and their grandchildren were then taken. So it's following family lines instead of being such as it was with Betty and Barney Hill in 1961, where they were driving along, they had continuous recall of a close encounter with a UFO. Barney had conscious continuous recall of observing non-humans before they were abducted. Think of Travis Walton in 1975, who was with a group of co-workers in the White Mountains of Arizona, returning home after a day of work in the forest, and saw a UFO, and got out of the truck out of curiosity, is struck by a beam that throws him into the air, and he simply disappears. He's missing for 5 days, and search crews are called out to look for him. The men who were with him at the time are under suspicion for having murdered him. They all take lie detector tests, and they say that they did see this craft, that they did not harm him. They passed the lie detector test, except for one who became angry and walked out, and so that couldn't be used. But what I'm getting at is that that type of abduction is not happening today from what I am hearing. It's ongoing, and it's across family lines. Sometimes the person has never seen a UFO in an external environment, but the parent or the grandparents were taken.
Right.
Yes, and I agree, Kathy. I agree. I also agree that more and more of these people, knowing that their children and grandchildren are being taken, have made the final decision to come out. So I believe there are more of them coming out and asking us for help than before.
Well, I think, too, that they're growing older. They had to consider their financial stability. And we know what happens to people who say they've been abducted by aliens. The general population thinks that they have psychiatric issues. People laugh at them. There are some overzealous debunkers who launch ad hominem attacks against them in an attempt to destroy their careers. If they talked to coworkers about it, they would have been laughed at, or they would have been harassed. This is a very difficult thing for people to talk about. So many people now who had these experiences and have had ongoing experiences and spent much of their life in a state of trauma are coming forward finally because they feel safe. They feel that there are people that they can talk to. We are researchers, but we also are very active in finding support for individuals who have had these experiences. We didn't have this kind of thing in the past. In the past, it was, okay, you've been abducted, prove to me that you have been, okay, you have missing time, you have some physical evidence, now let's do hypnosis. We don't do that anymore. We have a different approach today than we used to have. And experiences are coming forward, and they're joining together to support one another. And, I think that there is strength in this kind of thing, a type of group strength that we didn't have before.
Right. Yeah, that's... Go ahead, Ramon.
Sorry, Tom. Do you think that with your aunt and uncle, Betty and Barney Hill and Travis Walton, they were just at the wrong place at the wrong time? Or maybe the ship spotted them and were like, oh, that's somebody we should investigate?
Well, Betty and Barney and Travis all feel that they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, that the craft happened to be there. Betty and Barney thought, well, it was the off season. They were the only car on the road, or one of the only cars on the road in this remote area. If the ETs were looking for someone to pick up, this was a great opportunity for them. There was nothing that was going to interfere with that. They wouldn't be seen. And they could just grab Betty and Barney and then return them. With Travis, Travis said that he was just a dumb young man and a little bit too brave and curious, and just happened to step out of the truck to get a look at this thing, and that's when he was taken. He, for years and years, thought that these people harmed him, that they kidnapped him for 5 days. He has changed his attitude about that. He thinks that it might have been the hard hat that he was wearing that came into contact with that beam that might have done something like electrocuting him, and that it ended up being a rescue mission, and that when he was stabilized after a period of 5 days, they put him back down in a location where he could be found. They didn't put him down in the woods in a remote area where they took him from. They saved his life, is the way he thinks of it now, and that sounds very reasonable to me.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that that he had changed his story like that a little bit. That actually makes quite a bit of sense. I can understand, especially if it was one of those old 1975 metal hard hats that they used in the woods.
Yes, it was, and he hasn't changed his story. He's changed his attitude.
Right.
His perception.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. Now with Travis, I know the broad outline of his story. I haven't investigated him myself personally. Of course, everybody sees the Fire in the Sky, the movie The Fire in the Sky, and I have read a few articles about him and seen him talk a couple of times. But I guess my question to you is, and you may not know the answer to this or not, but has he been abducted since that?
Well, I can tell you that I have investigated Travis's case quite extensively in archival collections and in the original investigation files, and also talked to one of the original investigators, Dr. James Harder. What was your question?
Oh, does he still experience abductions, or did he experience
abductions? He always says that if he did, he would never tell anyone. That's his answer.
Right.
He was attacked so badly. There were a number of both UFO investigators who were jealous because they wanted him, and he went to another investigative group, and also Philip Klass, who was a very well-known debunker during the 20th century, an ardent anti-ufology propagandist, did everything in his power to destroy Travis's credibility, to destroy Travis's life, in a sense, and the lives of the individuals around him as well. So I can't blame Travis at all if he has ever been taken again to say that he would not state that he had if he had.
Right. Well,
I would have to agree with Travis also, because I don't know him long term personally, but I met him at Kathleen's home and staying in a guest house. I stayed up till 3 a.m. in the morning talking to him. His body language. We spent the weekend listening to him talk. He came to one of my meetings. That man is the most honest, truth-telling individual I have met in this field. I have to say that, because there is no question in my mind that what he is saying is the truth. What he has decided to do with it, he should be doing, and that people trying to or attempting to cut down his story, his feelings, and what changes he has made because he feels they may have tried to save him. And I absolutely believe it. They're wrong to do what they do, but they attack all of us at one point in our lives.
Right. Right.
And I want you to know that the movie Fire in the Sky was not a good depiction of what actually happened to Travis.
Yeah, that's what I understand.
There was a lot of theatrical license used there.
Right, right.
Yeah, especially the part in the craft, because I've heard him. Yeah, I've heard him say that he wasn't sure if he was on a craft or underground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, because they moved him from one craft to another through a sort of like a big hangar, which could have been another craft, or he really doesn't know where he was at that point.
No, and I have to agree with him, because these things are set up, I truly believe, to confuse and fool us, along with some of the screen images, for instance, the animals. And recently I've had kittens put on my chest at night, and they weren't kittens. They were another type of E.T. gray, and they were there to force something up into my sinus cavity. But it was too late when I figured out they weren't kittens.
Wow.
Well, you know, there's been, now that you bring that up, there's been several people in our audience that I've talked to, including Tom, where they've seen strange things in their body. Like, Tom, if you want to tell them the story of what happened to you, because
yeah, well, I was out. I was wearing a pair of shorts. Summertime. This was 2 years ago, Ramon?
About
2 years ago. 2 summers.
Yeah.
So it would have been the summer of 2012, and my girlfriend and I were sitting out on the couch watching TV or something, and I felt something on my thigh. And I looked down, and there was a lump. It looked kind of the shape of like a red bean, it was just a hard bean that was sticking up out of my skin on my thigh, and I pushed down on it, and it felt hard like a bean too. And I said, "Oh my God, Elizabeth, look at this! What is this?" And she looks over sees it, and it's there for like 5 seconds. We're looking at it. And it just disappears. It melts back into my body. And I probe around on it, and I can feel nothing at that point. Absolutely nothing.
Wow.
That one blew me away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, me telling this.
What color was it? Did it have a color, a different tone to your skin?
It was under the skin. It just... You know, if Elizabeth hadn't been there and seen it herself, she actually reached out and touched it too. If she hadn't been there and experienced it with me, I might question my own recall of the whole event. You know, it was so bizarre that I was like, okay, what is that?
The size of a red bean is quite large.
Yes.
It's actually the bean. It was about a half an inch long. And maybe a quarter inch, maybe a little bit wider than that, and it was oval. So and it's stuck up from the surface of my skin a good quarter inch itself, at least a quarter inch. It's stuck up.
Wow. Did you have any missing time or a few minutes that you were not aware of what was going on right then, or anything like that?
No, not right at that moment. No. I've definitely had some missing time events in my life that I just like, wow. I'll look at the clock and go, okay, where did the last 4 hours go? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That sort of thing. But it doesn't seem like there's any linear break in my awareness of my surroundings. You know.
That's interesting. You were outside.
Oh, no, I was sitting on the couch when the bean thing happened.
Okay.
In the house, sitting on the couch, and Elizabeth was sitting right next to me, and I don't remember what I had done earlier that day. This was 2 years ago, and I didn't really dig too deeply into all the peripheral stuff around that moment.
Okay.
But,
yeah, so if you don't recall what happened that day, if you'd been outdoors or saw any unusual lights in or outside the home, anything like that.
that was a time in my life when I was doing quite a bit of really deep meditation. So it was, and I constantly, and even to this day, I'm constantly experience what is known as paranormal events on a constant basis.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I sense energy very, very vividly in my life. And when I say energy, I'm talking about the full range of things. I mean, I can sense when the tension of society. I can feel when it starts to build, when an event is getting ready to happen.
Okay.
When somebody comes up to me, I sense their feeling and their state of mind immediately. I can read them quite easily.
So are you an empath?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But during that time, we were both, and Elizabeth has an amazing vision herself, where we see those little sparkles and orbs. She's actually has seen visually seen orbs floating around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
I catch things like that pretty regularly out of the corner of my eye.
Mm-hmm.
And occasionally I get the sparkly vision. For lack of any better term, I call it sparkly vision. It's like the veil is thinned for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm seeing different colors and little flashes of light here and there. It's amazing, but.
Well, sometimes some of these special children that we read about, the indigo children, the crystal children, and all of those types of things, and some that have been abducted, some of the psychic experiences only last about 2 weeks. Others that are empaths, it lasts a very long time.
Right.
And many experiencers are empathic. Many experiencers are psychic or intuitive. The majority are. About 88%.
Yeah, that's another one of those things where that question comes up in my mind on whether or not it is one of the reasons that they've been abducted in the first place, or if this is one of the fringe benefits of that abduction experience of having certain abilities turned on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've heard of, especially with kids who are abducted, they do a lot of training with them, in training them in psychic abilities, even to the point of like telekinesis and stuff like that. But when they come back to Earth, they can't really do it. But on the ship, they're able to do all these different things. Have you heard that before?
Some children claim that they are taught many things and don't recall all of it when they return. Some display the psychokinesis abilities, especially when they're angry. Kathy, what have you found?
Well, I was just going to quote a statistic, and that is that 51% of the participants in the Marden-Stoner commonality study stated that they developed these abilities, and the paranormal activity in their homes began after their first encounter.
51%.
Yes, 51%. 88% have these abilities and experiences, and 51% believe that it happened after the first encounter.
That's it. That's actually that's a pretty amazing statistic right there. That's definitely leaning towards something happening that does. I suppose my next question along that line would be whether or not it is something that is a natural ability that is accessed because their worldview had just become larger, or their view of reality has just become larger, or if something actually was switched on.
I wouldn't doubt that something is switched on. I don't know if it has anything to do with implant placement or if it has to do with something else that occurs on the craft or during the process of dematerializing and then materializing in human form again, particularly if you are moved through a solid surface. And that's another thing, we're getting into theoretical physics there. But it is very, very interesting. I don't have the answer, and I wish I did, but we continue to search for those answers.
Yeah.
We keep trying, we keep asking, we keep working with people that come back with some information that they couldn't possibly know due to their education level and information that they already have, and now all of a sudden they can write down something that appears to be quantum physics level.
Wow.
So this is all being researched and studied.
What about the who is it? Jim Sparks talks about that, lack of a better word, alphabet or symbology that, for example, they, you'll sit there and you'll write many pages to write a book, and they'll just write probably a couple symbols, and that'll be your whole book. Have you gotten that from other people, or? Because I've only heard Jim Sparks talk about it. I haven't heard anybody else talk about it.
Well, I find the symbols to be extraordinarily interesting. And when symbols are seen on the craft, they tend not to be as many symbols as we have in our alphabet and put into our words. So it may be more condensed. When my Aunt Betty was on the craft, she saw a tablet of sorts, and on that tablet were 6 rows of symbols, and I think there were maybe about 6 symbols in each row. It's in my book, Captured: The Betty and Barney Hill UFO Experience, with Stanton T. Friedman. An interesting thing about that symbol study that I'd like to share with you is that Bud Hopkins had been collecting symbols since the mid-1970s from experiencers that he'd worked with and had kept them in a file cabinet. And in 2004, Professor Don Derry from McGill University and the late Stuart Appel, Dr. Appel from the State University of New York at Brockport, collaborated on an alien symbol study with Bud Hopkins. And what they did is that they had the symbols that Bud had been collecting. They then used 2 groups of graduate students. One group was hypnotized and given the suggestion that they were on board an ET craft and that they saw symbols on the craft. And they were asked to sketch the symbols that they saw during this hypnosis, from confabulation. The other group of graduate students was asked simply to sketch symbols that they would imagine that ETs might write. Well, what they did is they photocopied all of these symbols onto the same paper, and they gave these symbols to graduate students who used a scale in order to analyze the similarity between them. And that was part of Dr. Don Derry's work at the psychology department at McGill University. What they ended up discovering is that Bud Hopkins' experiencers' symbols were very, very similar and dissimilar from the symbols that were drawn by both groups of graduate students. What the team ended up concluding is that this was scientific evidence that alien abductions might be real. Now, Dr. Don Derry saw Betty's symbols in captured the Betty and Barney Hill UFO experience in 2007 when he purchased it after it was published. And he decided to compare Betty's symbols to those of the graduate students and those of Bud's experiencers. And what he found is that Betty Hill's symbols had many, many similarities to those that were sketched by Bud's experiencers dating back to the mid-70s. So there was another piece of scientific evidence that was very, very interesting, I think. And in terms of how many symbols are required to convey a particular message, it appears that there are a lot fewer than in our alphabet. And I'm wondering about the symbols as well, because we know that the ETs are telepathic, but they appear to have a written language as well.
Right, right. Well, yeah, there's even just going back to the Roswell case, some of the parts that were picked up out of the desert, quite a few reports on the symbols that were on. Well, there's one I-beam piece that was reported to have quite a few symbols on it.
Yes, the one that Jesse Marcel Sr. Took to his home before he took it over to the base, and his son Jesse Marcel Jr., who is now deceased, but grew up and became a medical doctor and a flight surgeon himself, saw, and then sketched under hypnosis.
Right. Have those were those symbols cross-referenced in this study also?
No, they were not.
I'd be curious to see how they stood up against the rest of the symbols.
Yes, that would be interesting.
There are people still drawing symbols and somehow need to be brought together so they can all be compared. And are they something that are put on these beams or in certain areas where when looked at they're immediately recognized by certain ETs, by common groups, so that they will know each other and recognize each other, that have a certain meaning, and otherwise they don't need a communication system except telepathically? It would be fascinating to know what it's all about, because they are just a certain few symbols, apparently. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I was just wondering the same, whether, because also Charles Hall talks about when he saw the ships, they had symbols, and he called them hieroglyphic. And it just reminded me of the same thing with Jesse Marcel Jr.'s case. So I wonder if the symbols are similar or not.
Well, across the universe, I mean, because we're on the Earth and we recognize the various languages and can identify where they're from, hence would they recognize planetary systems and where they're from via these symbols?
Right, very, very possible. Yeah, that's a wow. Somebody could spend their whole life researching that one. Hang on, people do.
That's true.
Oh man, so we've burned up this first hour already, if you can believe that. Wow, some good material, some really good stuff here, ladies. Wow.
I have more questions.
Okay, go ahead. You got another one to get in before we wrap this up for the first hour, Ramon?
No, let's wrap it up and.
Okay, we'll let you lead out to hour 2 with your question then. All right. Well, guys, I would urge you guys to take a look at both the websites for Kathleen and Denise both. We have Kathleen-Marden.com and DeniseMStoner.com. And there is a link on the webpage here. There will be a link directly to the... Would you guys prefer people be directed to your websites to purchase the book, or would you rather have them go to Amazon?
Either one is fine. If they'd like an autographed copy, though, they should purchase it from our websites.
Right.
They can purchase it without our autograph from Amazon, and they can purchase an ebook from Amazon.
Well, there we go. All right, guys. So there we have it. We have an Amazon link on the page here also. So you can't say I didn't give you a way to get the book.
True.
I throw out stupid stuff like that when I have nothing else to say. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for listening to this first hour. And if you're out there listening on one of those other media outlets, the iTunes or the YouTubes or the Vimos or wherever else you may be listening to this at, and you want to listen to our two, I would urge you to go on over to our website at www.the100thmonkeyradio.com, and you can find all that second hour content. So, all right. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
The love you deny is the pain you carry.
Namaste, my friends, and we'll see you in hour 2.
Solve the problems that divide the world of black and white.